Hello, and welcome to Whispers of Hope. I'm your host, Alice White. This show is about life and its struggles and how people have overcome these challenges to find hope and a more fulfilling life. And this week, we've invited Bren Giorgianni to our program to discuss depression and her alcoholism and her journey to recovery. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me today.
Yes, so from what I understand, from a little bit of what you've told me about your story is that you've had some real struggles in these areas. Would you mind sharing that with us today?
Absolutely, I'd love to. That's why I'm here. I will honestly say it started back when I was about 34, and I had a very bad marriage, and I didn't want to tell anybody it was bad, so I just stayed in that. Basically, you know, that came with the bringing the beers in and kind of sneaking them in a little bit, maybe drink one or two, and then, you know, 4 or 5, 8, 9 later when everybody's asleep, because I didn't want to deal with it. And then it just became a really big problem for me on that.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, and so with these struggles, kind of hiding this situation, how did you deal with it, and what really brought you further on your journey to more of a depression that really really made things difficult for you in the future?
Well, I want to say by hiding it, it took me to a place where I felt ashamed and alone, and that nobody would want to hear, you know, me crying about my marriage and stuff like that. So it just went from bad to worse, and then continued to be worse. And then when I thought it was rock bottom, it wasn't.
Okay, so later on in your journey in life, what was it that came along your way in your journey that really, as they say, rocked your world? It devastated you to the point of reaching out for help with antidepressants and that sort of medications to medicate yourself? Yeah,
that being said, I just finished my divorce and barely even got over that. And the love of my life, which is my little sister, sorry.
It's okay. Did something happen to her?
The love of my life, the most beautiful person on the planet, died of a heroin overdose at the age of 34, and she left 2 beautiful daughters, and just my whole world at that point was no longer existent to me. And then that's when the change of that, the part where I was telling you that went from bad to basically a pit of destruction.
So you were a woman of faith all these years, and I understand your little sister was too. At that point in time, what was your relationship with the Lord on these issues? What was your faith like? Did it get shaken pretty bad at that time?
Yeah, it did. I was a born-again Christian my whole entire life. I've never known nothing but God. And at that point, she had been passed for, I believe, about 5 days. And I couldn't get her out of my mind. And I just remember, like it was yesterday, and I was looking out the window, and I told God, how dare you take her from me and my family, and how could he?
Yes.
Because she also had God in her heart and was born again, and I was just really confused, and I told God I didn't need him and I no longer wanted him, and I was done. Yeah.
So at that point, the depression, from what I understand, really stepped in and really took hold in your life. So
yeah,
you were seeking medical help, the professionals, to get something to, say, drown your sorrows, as well as probably the alcohol as well. So how did that go, and what did they actually prescribe for you at that point?
Well, what happened is, of course, I went into the doctor. They've known me for, at that point, 16 years, and I went in there and told them what happened, and they gave me a bottle of Ambien.
Now, what is that about?
Ambien is a sleeping medication that you take only for sleep. And what happened is I did just that. And slowly but surely, that bottle of Ambien turned into 2, 3 a day and 4 a day. And the stuff is just, I'd wake up and there would be stuff all over the house and food on the counter and a bathtub full of water and candles burning and just really weird and strange things going on.
So when you're on this medication, does it just kind of make you feel like you're out of it, or you just don't remember things, or what happens exactly?
It basically, for me, I just remember pretty much nothing. I just felt nothing, and I liked that.
Okay.
I liked it a lot because I didn't feel anything.
You're trying to drown your sorrows
and
escape from the reality that you had lost this loved one. So at this point, you had gone into a real deep depression. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Oh boy, yes, I would love to share. That being said, that the Ambien I would take, 2, 3, 4 because I didn't want to feel anything. And what happened is I told the doctor I lost my prescription.
Okay.
And so I got another one.
Okay.
Oh, and I was happy because, I didn't want to feel anything. But what happened is the Ambien, and then I started drinking the alcohol.
Oh, okay.
And that took me to a place to where I basically didn't want to live anymore. I didn't want to look outside. I didn't want to get dressed. I didn't want to do anything but sleep. Yeah, it was that bad.
And so do you think anyone around you really knew what was going on, or was this pretty much a secret?
Nobody knew anything.
Nobody
had a clue. And that being said, I want to share a little story about, because I work for the Fish and Wildlife Services and a hunting guide, and also, search and rescue. And of course, I'm Miss Goody Two Shoes in Ellensburg and know all the police. And that being said, that addiction for me, basically, how could I go tell them that I'm taking Ambien because I'm Miss Fish and Wildlife?
Yes.
And so I didn't want to admit to anybody. So that being said, nobody knew. Nobody knew a thing.
So you just held this, harbored this deep hurt of the loss of your sister.
Yes.
And also loss of a marriage at this point, and probably feeling pretty alone and pretty isolated.
I felt completely alone, especially at that point. No longer did I need God, nor did I want Him in my life. And no, I didn't want anybody.
So going further on with your story, what was the deepest of despair that brought you to actually wanting to hurt yourself or contemplate suicide? What exactly happened at that point in your life?
Well, I remember taking, I believe, 2 of the Ambien, which you're only supposed to take 1.
Okay.
I took 2, and I believe I drank 3 Mike's Lemonade. And I have it's a .380 Ruger LST. It's a firearm. I take it everywhere with me, and fully loaded. And I seen it sitting on the dresser, and wow, my daughter's with her dad. She hadn't been home for a couple weeks, of course, and my boys are way far away. I went and I got the gun, and I had it pointed to my head, and I wanted to end it.
How fearful and tragic. So at that moment, did it feel like it was reality, or was it just you were just kind of in this a bubble, so to speak? Did it seem like it was just surreal to you?
I felt like I was no longer Brenda, and I also felt like I just in a deep, not a trance, I don't want to say, but such a deep fog and deep despair that I didn't see anything but a way out, and that was my way out.
This was your way out?
Yeah, because the alcohol didn't work for my way out. The Ambien just made everything way bad, and so, yeah.
So where did this actually happen at? Was this in your house, or were you in your car? Where exactly was the scene that this actually happened?
I was living in a cute little place in Ellensburg, and really nice apartment, and I was there at my home, in my bedroom, yeah.
And so what stopped you at that time? What stopped you from literally pulling that trigger.
The incredible thing of it is that 5 days prior to me going home, I was at my mom's house. And this is the time where I was strong. I was, I didn't barely shed a tear, of course. And she gave me this beautiful tapestry. And I don't remember the saying on it, but it was beautiful. It said something about mothers and daughters and just something like that. And I had hung it up about when I first got home, before I started, doing the heavy, super heavy stuff. And I had the gun up to my head, and at a split second, because I know my brains are going to go everywhere. I knew that for a fact, and I don't know why. But when I looked back like this, and I seen that beautiful tapestry that my mom had given me, and something just went like that, and I'm like, I can't blow my brains out on that. There's just no way. And then it hit me. She's gonna lose 2 daughters, and then I ended up. I put the gun back on the dresser, and I just stood there and still just completely sobbed and just stayed in a depression.
Wow. So at this point, anyone listening, our viewers, maybe they're going through this same, maybe they're really facing this same situation. Maybe they're afraid to tell someone about their dilemma that they're going through, and maybe trying to hide it, or just despair, not knowing exactly who to turn to or where to go to.
Yeah.
If you wouldn't mind, would you just look at our viewers and just give them a word of advice, if you would, that there is hope out there. And there is life beyond all of this, the addictions and the alcohol and trying to lose yourself, so to speak, and really not knowing who to turn to, but just trying to find a release from reality.
Yeah.
Would you mind sharing that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. What I would love to say is that from me to anybody that's watching that has any kind of issues of feeling lost and hopeless and any addictions to anything, is that take it from me that the more you drown yourself in it, it's not the easy way out, because it just takes you down and down and down, and that it's just a lie. It's just a quick fix. And then what happens is that quick fix, you need something else to make it, numb that out, and then you go from one thing to another. And my first thing is that never turn your back on God, because that was the biggest mistake I've ever done. And that to please get help. There's people that can help you and show you that you can do it and be strong. And that being said, is that nothing is worth that you take your life over something that you're hurting for.
That's right. Absolutely. Thank you, Bren. I appreciate that comment. And to our listeners as well, if someone out there is hurting, we have some helps that will be listed on our screen. Crisis clinics, and there's a lot of people out there that would be very, very good to talk with. And if you get desperate and you just don't know, what to do or where to turn to, these phone numbers could be of a great help to you. And we just encourage you to get the help that you might need to get you through these times. And Bren, I thank you for sharing that part. That must have been very, very difficult. So once you realized that you were going to live, what was the beginning like for you then? What was it really like? Did you just take little baby steps, or what happened then? Or did more things come your way?
Basically what happened is that I realized that it was just a straight lie. And what I did is I actually got down on my hands and knees right then and there, and I gave my life back to God, and I just told him that I was sorry for leaving him, and that it never happened again, and that whatever that I'm going through and the pain that I'm going through, that could he please help me, and to just forgive me. And basically the next evening, a girlfriend had brought me this book, and it was called The Shack.
Oh, yes.
And it changed my life completely.
Yes.
And it just little steps like that, and that got me over that hump of feeling alone and basically just in despair.
So, like, you were pretty much at this point too, as well. You had the addiction of the Ambien, and also the alcohol. So, did you just kind of start weaning yourself down from all that, or did you just say, I've had enough of that? What happened then?
Basically, what I did is I took every single Ambien that I had, and I threw it all in the garbage.
Oh, good.
100%.
Good.
Never touched it since, and never plan on it.
That's
And
great.
anybody who has Ambien or anybody who knows anybody, to just please make sure that they don't overdo it, because it's really not safe.
Okay.
And yeah, I just basically just didn't want it in my life anymore.
It was going nowhere. It was causing some real problems. So a medication like that as well can actually cause a deeper depression than you
Yes.
had to begin with.
Yes.
And
Sorry. And that being said, is that when you take yourself off of that, you have to be careful too.
Okay.
So it's always, and if people don't want to tell anybody or they're scared to get help, there's a lot on Google
Okay.
that they can look for themselves and
Okay.
find out the side effects, and they can get a hotline number
Okay.
and talk to somebody. And I did that. I didn't tell anybody about it, but I did talk to people
Very good.
on the other end of the phone, and I told them what I was going through, and they helped me through it the best that they could.
So these were like counselors that are
Yes.
set up to speak with you.
I Googled, basically what I did is I looked up the side effects of Ambien
Okay.
mixed with alcohol. Basically is
okay.
You're just setting yourself up to die. And I got on there and I started looking for the help. There's like 1-800-HELP numbers.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yes, it is.
That is amazing. So your journey from some real darkness,
Yeah.
some real dark times, brought you to a place to where you basically, your faith was renewed,
Yes.
your hope was renewed, and now I have something to live for.
Yes.
And realizing, as you said, your little sister was a Christian, and realizing that she was at home in heaven and she was safe
Yes.
and well,
Yeah.
and I think that's important too, to remember that as well.
Thank you.
So going a little further, at this point, so you've had, how long ago has it been since your little sister passed away?
2 years ago.
2 years
December.
ago. So at this point in time in your life, 2 years have elapsed. And how do you feel yourself today? How do you feel about life and purpose and hope for your future?
Yeah, that I'm glad that you asked me that, because that being said, is that I chose to be an instrument, and wherever I could, to talk to people about heroin.
Yes.
And let them know that I have a little sister that died from it, and basically the Ambien and things that I've done,
Yes.
and that there's a way out. And I just try to be a mouthpiece and reach as many people as I possibly can. And I just have a whole new outlook on life itself, and God's been good to me. He's done amazing things in my life. He's taken me out of the depression. He's taken me out of feeling sorry about a bad marriage,
Yes.
and knowing that my sister is in heaven.
Yes.
And how many people can I touch?
That's beautiful.
Yes.
I also heard that you've done some going into the jails, that type of ministry. Do you have anything in particular that, in regards to helping someone through a situation with heroin addiction, to share with me?
Yes, I do. There's a few girls. I would go in there and they would actually just open up to me and tell me, I was a prostitute, or
sure.
I was this, I was that, and I've been doing heroin since I was 9, or my mom. The stories to me just made my story out just completely so major compared to mine, that my heart I just couldn't do anything but want to tell them about that they can have a new life, and that it doesn't matter where they've been and what they've done or how they got there, is that they have a reason and a purpose.
Yes.
And that being
beautiful.
said, right then and there, I've got letters back from the commanders in the jails that these girls have got into drug and alcohol treatment. Amazing. Right out of jail into treatment, and that to me is just all worth the journey.
That is great. And they could relate to you because you have had to deal with, obviously not heroin addiction or anything, but addiction is addiction.
Yes, addiction is addiction.
And there's many, many different forms of addiction, but there is hope past all that. And so today, starting a new day in your life, this new chapter in your life, do you see yourself going into ministry in that area of continuing to help others, or to be able to share your story with others and to be able to encourage the hearts of people that have been going through this same situation?
I would absolutely, that's my biggest dream right now, to be, besides the fish and wildlife and all that good stuff, I would love to be somewhere where I could minister and share my story with young people or any kind of people that would need just to hear my story, to let them know that, you know, somebody's done there and been that.
Yes, well,
through that.
I see you as, you know, you're vibrant and you're so alive and you have so much this beautiful energy, and that's amazing. That's a testimony for coming out on the other side. So what came into really the depression and the Ambien and the alcohol and life circumstances of, you know, divorce and death in your family.
Yeah.
Of, as you said, you know, this was the love of your life. The loss was horrendous, but you didn't go down and out on it. You came up and over because obviously God never left you alone.
No, he didn't. No, he was there the whole time.
Yes, yes. And so that's the awareness that people need to know too, that feeling sometimes like maybe they've gone too far, or maybe they've just missed the mark, or that nobody cares for them, and especially God, because I've really messed up. And that's so false, and that's so not true. Would you share with us about that?
Oh, boy. I laugh because it's such a lie. The devil is such a liar, and I've seen it. I can't even, I want to say at least 27 girls say the same thing. Every single time, a different story or a different age, and they're all, you know, same story about that. Well, why would God love me?
Right.
Or why would He forgive me for this? Or why would God do this? And why this and why that? And it's it makes me kind of chuckle because they're so. They just don't even have a clue that God is so much bigger than all that.
Yes.
And when He does something, He does it beautifully. And they kind of looking at me for a second, and then they get a little bit closer and a little bit closer.
Yes.
And they just see that I'm just being real. And
That's right.
God is a good God, and He can take anything and deliver you from that.
That's right.
And He has. I've seen it. Yeah.
Over and over.
Over and over.
So your story has such significance, and I think especially when we talk about, you know, drug-related situations of the heroin, the heroin that's on the streets and everything that's going on, the people, young lives especially, that are lost because of this terrible, terrible drug that is out there.
Yes, very
terrible. And people are basically just trying to use it to bring comfort, or it's like an escape from the reality of the things that are going on in their life. So in your opinion, you can't just get away from those things that have happened, or your lifestyle or whatever it is that's really bringing that depression to you, because depression's very real, very real.
Very real.
So in your opinion, the best thing possible is to try to get those things that are causing the depression, the chemicals, out of your life, and possibly to seek medical information. You know, there's medical information. There are helps out there.
There is help out there. There's all kinds of new treatments for the heroin, to where you can get a shot once a month.
Okay.
And if they try to do heroin, it will make them so sick they'll never wish that they did heroin.
Okay.
And but yes, it's all on the internet, and they can look that up. And there's help to where they can go in and talk to people as well, or even do it online to where there's steps that they can find out what's causing the problem, the rooted problem, and then build themselves up from there.
Okay. Aren't there also clinics that a person, like as a crisis clinic, that they could actually check in, like a rehab type of a situation?
Yes, there's several of those, and it's all online as well.
Okay, so there's helps out there. It's just seeking the information, and I'm sure there's someone that would be able to give the right answers to the right people, and to, I think too, to share with them, not to be ashamed. Your story, you were quite the gal in in society, and basically the last thing you probably wanted anybody to know was what was going on in Bren's life, but it almost cost you your life as well.
Yeah.
So by the grace of God, you put that gun down that day.
I did.
And you started a brand new life of just facing the challenges that were ahead, but without those chemicals.
Yes.
And surrounding yourself with positive people and positive things, and renewing your life and renewing the hope that there is a better tomorrow and that we have a future and there's good things in store for us, and there's always good.
Yes.
You know, the Bible says that God turns everything to our good. We may not see it at that time, but doesn't mean good things always happen to us, because bad things happen to good people all the time. But I do believe with my whole heart that our hope is set that, God will bring good out of it somehow, somewhere. If you would like more information on Whispers of Hope, or if you'd like to share your story on our program, please see the contact information at the end of this video, and you can also follow us on Facebook or subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you again for joining us. Goodbye.